kids. Today we're going to make Max's pasta pesto. Why is it Max's pasta pesto? Because he can eat astronomical amounts of it and it is his very favorite food. So we have all our ingredients already assembled here. Of course, we have our basil. We have our Parmesan, extra virgin olive oil. I always cook with extra virgin olive oil. Then we've got our protein pasta. I like this brand. I think it tastes better. And I do like using protein pasta more because I like reducing how much white flour we eat. I also have our kosher salt, and I like kosher salt better than your standard table salt. For me, I feel like I can taste that chemical kind of taste, and I just prefer this more. So kosher salt it is. And then last but not least by any means, I have cashews. Now, what's the word the kids would say, you guys? You would say, oh, it's not canon. Right, it is not canon for pesto to have cashews in it. Usually it's pine nuts, but pine nuts are crazy expensive. So one day I thought I'd experiment and went with cashews, and I have never gone back. So if there's anybody who's out there that says, ooh, that's not pine nuts, it's not traditional, right? It's not. A nod to pine nuts for being a traditional kind of way to make it, and a shout out to cashews for being a more economical way. Okay, let's get the pans. Now I use this pan with a steamer basket for the carrots, and I get this started right now because honestly it just doesn't take very long to make the pesto. Go ahead and grab out our colander and put it in the sink that we were just prepared. And start filling up our pasta pan with water. I always use a big pan because there's so many of us, so we make a lot of pasta. So a tip for making carrots, you really only have to put about an inch of water in this because we're just going to steam them. So makes it a little easier. Timing is good to do the carrots right about now while you get the water boiling and make the pesto. It just softens them up to a nice consistency. Put on the lid and cover it completely. That way the steam stays contained for the carrots. For the water, you can salt it with about a teaspoon. That was a little bit more, that's okay. Just provide a little bit of salt for the water for the pasta to have a little bit more flavor. You could grate your Parmesan by hand, but there's really no need to. I tend to throw it into the blender. That way it will get finely grated. So I'm gonna cut it into cubes because it just makes it easier for our particular blender to chop it up well. So just go ahead and toss your Parmesan cheese chunks on into the blender. I usually add the salt here now as well. 2 teaspoons, measure by hand. It's good. I've been doing this long enough. And then I also put in the cashews here. So I'm pretty generous with the cashews. 2, 3, 6 and 7. A little bit more love. All right, that can go away, and then add your olive oil. So what I do now is I put this in the blender right now. It makes it much easier when we add the basil leaves to mix them up. Otherwise, you keep on having to shove a spoon down there to mix stuff up when the blender's off. So this is just a step to make things a wee bit easier. I really like starting with the blender down low. That way it doesn't startle me when it goes on. So I've got it turned down and then just flip the switch and I'll turn it up while it's going so it'll blend better and faster. That's about the consistency we want. I'm going to turn it off and I'll turn it down low. That way it doesn't startle me again if I forget next time to turn it down. Now it's time to add our basil. So we get these giant bunches, which I really love a lot, and pinch off the leaves into the blender. So a sweet little story. Your dad and I, Robert and I, first had pasta pesto together. We were at the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Transcendental Meditation Center in Malibu, right off the Pacific Coast Highway. It's where we learned to meditate, and they had this fantastic buffet that was there that we would go and enjoy. And one day they had pasta there with this kind of green paste. So we love food and we love being adventurous with food. So of course we tried it. And then the first bites, we looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, how have we lived this long without ever eating this? This is incredible. So ate, promptly went back for seconds. And then actually one of our friends had told us about the cookbook that they use as the basis for the food there. So got the cookbook, of course, and then made it the way that they had it. And right, it had the pine nuts in it, which was traditional, but then adapted the recipe to fit what it is currently now. So grateful to have learned to meditate for many reasons, and pasta pesto is one of those reasons too. Now we get to do our second round of blending. So put it on there. It's turned down. Spatula, push it down, 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 and in. That way, when it mixes, the basil will already be deep down in there for good mixing. Sometimes I have to stop the blender because, well, this is the blender brand that we usually get. This is not the actual blender itself, this piece of it that came with this set, so it doesn't work as efficiently. It's okay. So I gotta push down the basil so it'll mix properly every once in a while. And I think that should do it because it looks like it's mixing up nicely. See all the green down there? So I'll show you the consistency here so you can see what it looks like. Nice and thick, kind of like a paste, and there's plenty of it, which everyone always appreciates. Now you might be able to see here, I can, that there is steam coming up from the carrots. As soon as you start seeing that steam come up, you can go ahead and to save energy, because we're mindful of that, we can turn that down to medium low and the water will still stay boiling so that it steams up the carrots in a beautiful fashion. So as the water's boiling and the carrots are steaming, I got a little bit of extra time, so we could just go ahead and clean as we go. We've got a good rolling boil in the pot, so go ahead and dump in your pasta. Watch out for splashes. I do tend to use 2 packages because y'all eat that much, and that way there might be a little bit for leftovers too. And just go ahead and make sure that you gently push your pasta down. That way it is covered by water. Then give it a good stir. That way it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot, okay? Probably this takes about 5 to 7 minutes. probably every 2 minutes. Make sure you're giving it a stir, that way it doesn't stick. Since mouthfeel is important to you guys, you're gonna want to test your pasta to see if it's al dente, and it's there. Don't forget your silicone gloves or your oven mitts, whatever, because you don't want to burn yourself on your pot handles. Watch out for splashing. Give it a couple of good shakes to get the water out. And then, just for ease, looks like that's pretty good. I like to put it right back on the same pot we used so you guys can serve yourselves. So here it is, finished Max's pasta pesto with a side of steamed carrots, because it's important to eat your fruits and vegetables. Here you go.
Thank you, Mama.
You're welcome, Princeling.